Ooh, yeah.
And welcome everyone to our virtual co-working, write-in, edit-in events. I'm Coral Sands, author and your host for today's writing event.
And I'm Ansley Ashe, author and co-host for today's writing event.
To keep myself accountable, I love write-in events. I want to warn you, when I post prompts followed by short bursts of break time so we can be really productive. Think of this as a 1-hour marathon of working on your story.
This is live on YouTube, but feel free to watch the VOD afterwards so you can pause if you need more time. While you're at it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and do all the fun algorithm stuff. Let's dive in. Or what have we got?
All right, so just so you know, we have some writing quest events that are coming up in October. We are doing Preptober, and so that's going to be today at 11 a.m. and then and also October 19th at 11 a.m. And then in November, we are going to have some amazing shows with live interviews with authors and editors and everything else. And that's going to be Sundays at 11 a.m. Central and Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Central. I'm so excited for that.
We've got a
So
lineup
we're
of some
sorry.
We've got a lineup of amazing guests already. Go ahead, Coral. I'm like so excited. Can't hold myself together.
All right. So let's go on to.
Okay, we post all of our upcoming events on our Facebook group called Writing Quest. We'll leave a link in the description. Let's talk about October. Some call it October, where we spend the month prepping our Novel Quest writing adventure that starts in November. In November, we will be setting goals to write or edit a book in 30 days. The individual, you can set your own goal. We cheer each other on, and we keep each other motivated through the ups and downs of November.
And if you haven't watched the VOD for our September live write-in, I highly recommend it because we started prepping then. And we went over brainstorming ideas, expanding ideas, diving into themes, and a bit about the main character, as well as figuring out our POV intents.
Since last stream we went over main character, let's spend a few minutes brainstorming who is the big baddie of your book. Let's start with a quick 5-minute sprint to get our creative juices flowing. So
all right.
Go ahead, Coral. Explain this one out. I love your. You do so well with these. I love them so much.
Oh, thank you. No, I think that what you said was perfect. We are going to brainstorm ideas about your villain. All right, so let's put 5 minutes on the clock. All right, let's do this. Brainstorm ideas about your villain. All right, that means it's time for a break. We are 5 minutes. How did everybody do with brainstorming your big baddie? Let us know in the chat.
Yeah, we read them all afterwards, so it's like so much fun when we go through and we do that. So like it's just amazing to read what everybody wrote. I love it so much. Okay, so we're back to we were talking about I had the log line, you're an art thief who gets your bathroom redone. So like and oh, the horror. But I decided that I was going to change my protagonist to the carpenter, like the carpenter's hidden skills. Okay, so then who is our art thief and what is he doing? So that makes us our big baddie, right? All right, so like, is he just somebody who collects illicit art? And it's like, okay, it's only valuable to him if it's stolen. And under those circumstances, fine art of that ilk is stolen. It has to be stolen. I don't know why, but I know that it is. And it's frequently used for the financing and underwriting of illicit deals. So like think arms and drugs and all those things that we don't want sold on the black market, right? And so I was like, okay, so what if he's a relatively small arms dealer? So like that's kind of like how we're starting to build out who he is and what he does. And I'm trying to come up with a name for him, and I'm still drawing a bit. I'm like right now I think I'm going to name him Artie Smarty, but I don't know that that's really kind of harsh to me.
The nose.
A little on the nose. We'll have to obscure that later on. You'll find out later.
So yeah, for mine, I am in the middle of trying to figure out the main big baddies of my shifter work in progress, and I think that there's 3 main ones. We have our main big baddie, which is outside the community. They believe that the shifters should not commingle different species and stuff like that, and so they are sabotaging and vandalizing and attacking the shifter community because they don't believe in what they believe in. So we have that as a big baddie. But then we also have people inside the shifter community that believes that the current leaders are not doing enough against the other bad influences that are going on right now, and they believe that they should be leader. And so that's one of our big baddies that's like outside influence. But then there's a third big baddie, and I think that that one is the main character's self-sabotaging, and that because they have one foot outside the community, that's the reason why everybody thinks that they are the one that starts the fire and starts like, and that's why people don't trust them because they're new to the community and stuff like that. And so they kind of self-sabotage. So it's really exciting.
You know, but I love that you have that in your... Yeah, I love that you have that in your fiction, because I think in real life, we have no greater enemy than our own inner demons, right? Like the little things we do to sabotage ourselves to not and we don't even sometimes even think about it. So like, yeah, I love that. Yay! Amazing.
So I guess now that we know who our main character is and our big baddie, we should take time brainstorming events. Conflict that moves your plot forward. What types of conflicts could happen that will get in your main character's way of reaching their goals? This would be a great time to think about your inciting incident. What event pulls your main character from their normal day-to-day into their adventure? And what will be their big climax? What would be the mini conflicts that you can add to provide more drama? So we're going to go ahead and brainstorm events. This is a little bit harder, so we're going to have 10 minutes for you to be able to work on this. And remember, you can always pause it and come back to the VOD later, and if you need more time to brainstorm events and stuff like that. So this is super important. So all right, everybody, take a deep breath And let's do this. Okay. All right, that ding means it is time for another break. How did everybody do?
I'm gonna have like this is gonna be a problem, Coral. I'm gonna have this whole thing outlined out. This isn't even the novel. Next week, in 2 weeks, when we show up again, I'll be working on my actual Novel Quest novel, which like I'm ordering note cards now and doing all of this other work offline. So some of this has already been done, which is why I'm doing this. I'm gonna have a second novel outlined. How dare I? How dare I?
I love it though. That's awesome.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're like into the second complication. So yeah, good. We're doing good.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got outline of some possible events and stuff like that. At this point, you could actually start doing like your note cards that like Melanie was talking about, and to kind of see how each one, whether or not they have like a cause and effect, whether or not each scene is affected by previous scenes, to make sure that they make sense. But also making sure that each scene is being led by not just necessarily the main plot, but one of the things that I was talking about before was thinking about the main character's misbelief and how that would affect how they make their decisions. So regardless, every decision that they make, they are going to do it in the frame of whatever that misbelief is. So you have to think about that when you're thinking about each one of these scenes, is how is this scene going to affect that misbelief?
Yeah, so, and a plugin, Coral and I, you can totally do this on a computer. I know tons of people who do it on the computer. They put their notes up there. But Coral and I'm going to put a plug-in for the old school note cards. You can see Coral's in the background. I've got mine in my hand. One of the reasons we use old school note cards is when you have those scenes, right? You can lay them out, like Coral has this up on a board, right? But you can lay them out on a table, and I shuffle the cards just like I'm shuffling them like a regular deck. I mean, not like a flippy kind, but like just stack them, like this, and shuffle them like old school shuffling your cards, and then see what comes out. And I can lay them on the table, and I can draw two scenes together from wildly different things and see what it is. And it's just so easy to make random connections when you have them out there. I just found it easier with the old school analog way than it was digitally for me. Like digitally just kind of like it's being this like almost linear thinking, and it's very hard to break out of that. Whereas like the note cards, I have so much more freedom to do it linearly. All right, so that's my plan.
Yes, I love it. I love being able to look at basically everything that happens to my story, and as I said, being able to like move things around if need be. And sometimes some of the things that you move around will completely mess up your story, and that's kind of how you know that you have it in the right spot. Like being able to if you're able to move something around without it affecting things, there's going to be a flag there that maybe this isn't, or maybe you haven't figured out how to get it to be caused in effect through the main character. So I guess now that we know what events, or have an idea of some of the events that we may have happen in our story, now we can actually expand on our world. So where does your story take place? Is it Earth as we know it, or some other world? Where does your main character live? What locations might you need for the conflicts that you have planned already? So during the next prompt, I want you to take 10 minutes, and I want you to brainstorm all the different locations you might need. And again, try to make them important to the story. Like there's a reason why you pick a specific city or a specific thing, and I want you to really think about those things. Oh my goodness. Okay, ready? Let's do this. All right, that ding means it's time for another break. How did everybody do?
It's 13.
What's that? Can you start over? It was a little garbled for me. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know how superstitious you are, but the number of places I came up with is 13. I don't know if that's a
Oh my goodness.
I am not triskaidekaphobic. I just know the word.
Yeah.
I just think it's a funny word.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I got 11. So.
It's a pretty similar number.
Yeah.
Pretty similar number. So
nice.
It's an interesting thing. I found it hard to not talk about places, and like all of a sudden I'm like, well, why is my main character there, and what are they doing there? And I'm like, no, like they need a desk and a chair and stuff on the walls, and you need to think about this stuff. And like I'm in the middle of thinking of scenes.
Yes, absolutely. But that's the fun part about doing this, is that it kind of gives you the ideas. You got to mark in the margins and stuff like that, just your ideas as they pop up and stuff like that, so you don't lose them.
By the way, just for those of you watching, there is no wrong order to when an idea hits you to like what you're going to do, because you may not know specifically what's in that room until you write the scene, but you may know exactly what happens in that room, and so like what's going on. So like it's not out of order. You know, just don't listen to your inner editor at this stage. Okay, Cora, what did you get? You got 11. Anything interesting? Unexpected?
I definitely knew I needed a main, like the new house. The big question that I have is, where am I going to start my story? So I think that's a big question that I still need to answer. But I know that I need the new house that they're going to be moved into, the pack house, because that's very traditional in shifter stories and stuff like that. That's probably a friend's house. Definitely the school, a police station / jail, and then we're definitely going to need the Big Baddies territory. And then I had a couple of locations in the main town area, and then also I have a couple locations in Chicago because I want her to get away from safety and get to a place of relative non-safety where she thinks that she's going to be able to be on her own and have like a grand adventure and everything else. But then when she gets there, she realized how sheltered she really was and how much her family was protecting her and stuff like that. So I know that I need those places. But yeah, the big question outstanding is, where the heck am I going to start my story?
That is a great question. I can't help you with that, but it's a great question. You know, because I think you have such a broad theme of an idea, right? Like, I don't know why. So, like, sometimes that's what I know is just where my story starts. Like, I know my beginning, and I know what my conflict is. And so these are things I never struggle with because I'm in that situation in real life, or I think of something in real life. And so, like, I know where my starting point is. And I never have to think, like, oh, where am I going to do that? But I know people do. So it's interesting to hear you talk about it. Okay, explore this world. Oh, my gosh. Now I have to think of all these silly things that go into this bathroom.
Yes, let's dive deeper into your world. Now, this is actually going to be a little bit different than what you're thinking, Ansley. I want you to think about what politics affect your story. Dive into societal expectations. What kind of technology does your world have? Take time to explore food and culture. So, like, this is like your time to do like all of that weird world building and stuff like that. Now, if you're in like Earth nowadays, that's important too, to establish where your story takes place and what exactly what time it is, when it takes place, and all of those things are really good to establish. And so let's dive in and explore our world. All right, that ding means time for another break. How did everybody do? So much fun to dive into our worlds.
Yeah, you have. I feel like I have like this very normal world. Like this is the whole point, right? Is that the world is very modern and very normal, and that Artie and Sean, my big baddie, and my main character are gonna have very normal concerns. You know, like my biggest decision that I had to make is like, okay, why is Sean going through the house? And the most obvious answer is he's brown bagging his lunch. And why would he brown bag his lunch? And so like these are all the questions that I kind of have to answer. And because like I wanted him in the refrigerator of my big baddie, and it's like, why would you be in the refrigerator? And why would this be a thing? And what are we doing? And so like obviously we're taking a cold lunch, and the refrigerator's there to keep it cold because we're trying to eat healthy for, I don't know, a variety of reasons. So like good things to think about. You have more interesting things to think about. I feel like there's boring things to think about, but they're just like things that I'm going to throw in and sprinkle in there to like get us in here to get us, you know, some sort of a feel.
Yeah.
What about you? You have important decisions to decide because you've got magic happening in your world.
I do. I have some big decisions. I have different societies within the Shifter Society, so that I have to think about. I've narrowed it down to two main types of societies, though. One society is more governed by vote, and it's more democratic, and there's meetings for the entire community to help make decisions, and it's a group effort where everybody helps each other and tries to set each other up for success, and there's a sense of like family and close-knit friends. So that's of course a smaller community. And then there's a different type of society within the Shifter community, which is governed by an Alpha's command. So it's very militaristic. The social expectations is more about power and infighting, and fighting becomes like a daily life. And there's a power struggle for positions, and trust is really hard to find, and everyone has a rival and things like that. So there's the two main societies that I've broken it down to. But I think the most interesting thing about my society that I have is actually in the food. I've decided to make it so that when they're in their human form, they can eat whatever food they want. But generally speaking, if the Shifter is an herbivore, they would be vegan. And if they are like a carnist, like, you know, a meat eater, then they would be omnivore. So I think that that's going to make it a little bit more interesting. And then in the Shifter form, they eat whatever is the diet of their species. So like if they shift into a bird, they would eat whatever birds eat. Things like that.
So much fun, so many places to go, so much research to put into it to make it interesting and fun. I love that. Yeah, so that's, yeah. Okay.
Yes.
We are almost done. Let's turn to like the last, what are we doing for our last prompt? So we've only got a minute left before this last prompt. So what am I doing? What am I thinking about?
So I think that the most important thing to remember is that, don't worry, we'll explore more world building during our next virtual write-in. So don't worry if you didn't get to everything. But to end our write-in, let's just take 5 minutes and brainstorm possible endings. Where does your story end? What is your big aha moment? Where is everything going? Because if you don't know where it's going, it's going to be so easy for you to get lost in the muck of the middle. And so I think that this is going to be really important. And think of different ways it could possibly end. Think of it going good, think of it going badly, think about all of those things, and really just come up with as many different types of endings you can come up with.
So great.
Yes, and then we'll decide later on which one fits best with the story that you want to tell. All right, 5 minutes on the clock. Let's do this. All right. Time is up. That went so fast. Fantastic work, everyone. During our next event, we are streaming Sunday, October 19th at 11 a.m. The event is going to be on our Writing Quest YouTube, and we will be starting to build upon what we did today.
So I'm so excited to be here. Remember, even if you don't make your goals, you are attempting to put effort to write a little bit every day, and that is amazing.
If you want to keep in touch, please join our Facebook group, Writing Quest. Also, check out our Substack, which is really amazing right now. That one's also Writing Quest, so check that out too.
We'll put a link in the description in a little bit. Yeah, so make sure you link to that. We love the Substack. You'll get some tips in there for something. Before we go, we have to thank our amazing producer, David McInnes. We couldn't do any of this without him. Thank you. Thank you.
And as she said, the description includes links to all of our social media. If you like this content, please like, comment, and subscribe.
See you next time. Bye.
Thank you.